Well, welcome back to another episode of the Run Disney Rundown. I am your host, Lake, and we have a very exciting episode to talk about. But I'm not alone. As always, I am joined by my co-host on the DCL podcast, Christy. Christy, how are we today?
I am well. Lake, how are you?
I am doing good. I'm very excited for this episode. I haven't been this excited to talk about... I'm always excited to talk about Run Disney, don't get me wrong, but this is very new.
Yes.
And joining us also today is our friend Ashley, who you may know as Disney Tricks on Instagram and also YouTube as well.
Yeah. Hi, Lake. Hi, Christy. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. We did want to bring Ashley on because Ashley did something pretty cool. Ashley did... I don't know. There's a million different names. What are you calling it?
I call it Dopey to Dumbo because Dumpy's a little weird. It's a little weird. Some people are calling it Dumpy, Dumpy. You know, you're just kind of crazy to do both. But
I liked Dopeyfornia.
Yeah, Dopeyfornia is a good one. Yeah, I've seen all sorts of crazy names for it, but yeah.
Yeah, so Ashley did that crazy turnaround. Now, Katie and I did Coast to Coast, but we just did the half at Walt Disney World and then turned around and... Yeah. The half of a half.
Yeah. That's what it kind of was.
We just did 7.1 through Epcot.
Yeah. But just is so funny. Like 2 halves is massive. Coast to Coast is a huge challenge. It's so funny. Everyone's been saying that.
Which is even crazy, like... when we're talking about like Disney themed races.
Yes.
And we're like, oh yeah, we're doing Dopey. We're going to run for 4 days straight. And like ultra marathoners are like, what?
Yeah. No, it's wild. I have so many people that I work with that do Ironmans and they're like, you did what? 67.9 in a week? Yeah, it's fine. My ankle's a little shot, but it's fine.
I have mad props for you. I'm just in awe of everybody who did that. So it's really
crazy.
Cool.
I'm glad we did it one time. I really think we're one and done on that, but we'll be back for Dopey for sure.
Oh, Dopey for sure. I said I will give up Disneyland to do Dopey again because that was my trade-off, was to make Disneyland happen. I couldn't do Dopey. And it's like, I'm doing Dopey next year. I don't care.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Wendy says hi, and Major Ducky also says hi. Believe Major Ducky also did Dumbo to Dopey.
It's amazing.
It's a lot. The travel was honestly for me the hardest part. The runs were fine. I thought Disneyland was incredible. I know we're going to get into it, but just from a race course perspective, but the traveling and sitting down for so long, I needed to move. Don't pick a window seat. Pick an aisle.
Yeah.
And then I feel like everyone was just like on edge trying to get home after Disneyland.
Yeah, I went on Tuesday, and that was the best move that I made because
that was a good move.
Monday was very tough for people.
Yeah, we got lucky and we were fairly smooth. We had a small delay, but we had another friend on our flight going somewhere else who was stuck in Dallas for like 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, wow. Not fun.
2 days.
What? How do you even? I can't even fathom that. They
were going somewhere northeast, which was also getting hit by a snowstorm.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. But actually, I am gonna throw it out. I'm talking about Justin, who won the 5K at Disneyland.
Was he who was stuck?
Fun fact. Yes.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, so let's just actually shout out Justin because he's pretty awesome.
Way to go, Justin.
But before we go any further into Disneyland half weekend, we do have to talk about the other Disneyland weekend here real quick, because they did just announce the themes for each of the races for the Disneyland Halloween half. And it was being a pain letting me save the images, so you're just going to look at the screen share today. We'll go through this pretty quickly. Like I said, I do want to move on to the Disneyland half here. But we do have the Disneyland Halloween 5K. And we got this Chip and Dale theme here.
So
And
cute.
So cute.
They
It's
are
so
all,
cute.
they're like very classic Halloween. It's all the themes they hinted at. We've got Haunted Mansion. Of course, you're going to have Haunted Mansion for a Halloween themed race here. And then half marathon, we go into Sanderson Sisters, but where you've got the Minnie, Daisy, and Clarabelle Sanderson sister versions.
I don't hate that.
Figaro in the corner.
In the little corner. Yes, these are awesome.
I love that.
And then the kids race picture did not update, but I can look and see what that is in a second.
It was Mater.
Yes, it's Vampire Mater. That's right.
No, I'm going to have to find a kids medal. That I said if they did a spooky cars one, so I have a wedding I'm supposed to be at. But and I'm the maid of honor. But if there was a spooky cars one, I was going to figure it out. And there's no way. But that's cute.
Yep. And then the challenge, we have Nightmare Before Christmas. Almost forgot the name, staring right at it.
I did not see the challenge yet, so that was my first reaction. Oh my gosh.
I like that we've got like a good variety of like movies and themes here. You got an attraction, you've got I guess 2 classic movies. But I like it. These are cool. These are what I was hoping out of it. Katie and I are planning on going out for this race weekend.
What are you guys going to do you think? Which races?
Challenge?
Yeah. Challenge is going to be great.
Yeah, though I am so intrigued by these 5Ks that start in the main street.
It looks amazing, and that's the only one that can do fireworks. Also, I'm so sorry, guys. I got to get my laptop charger, so let me grab that really fast. But
you're all good. We can stall for you. But yeah, that is a good point. Wendy said the registrations are actually the most expensive registrations that we've had for races.
I didn't
they're
see that.
they're all like $20 to $30 more than what Disneyland was. However, they do include
more than that. It was more than that. I mean math, but yes, tell us what they include.
But now you are getting PhotoPass included with it, which I think with the way Disneyland does PhotoPass makes sense.
Yeah,
however, I think from the Disneyland half, I only got like 7 photos this year. So is it really that huge of a perk? Unless they step up the character and the PhotoPass game. If that's the case, then that's honestly like a pretty nice perk. I'm pretty cool with that. But if I end up with, 7 or 8 photos from one race again, I'm be like, okay, that was fine, I guess.
Well, and I lied. You were right. You're mostly right. The challenge went up more than that, but everything else did go up around $25.
Yeah.
Depending on the race.
Yeah. And I mean, when you buy Genie Plus there, it includes photos. And so that's relatively cheap to have both photos and Genie in relation to Walt Disney World. So I can understand like $30 for their photos, but they are going to need to step it up. And I think that was a major recommendation from everybody.
Oh.
Challenge the half and the 10K?
Half and 10K, again? Yeah, actually, when I saw that price increase, I was like, oh, is the 5K part of it?
Oh, I wish.
Katie was like, no, they just increased everything. It's like, oh. Oh. So it will be interesting, too, to see if these price hikes fall through to the Walt Disney World events next year.
I mean, you got to imagine that they will, right?
We'll see. My hope is that we're seeing an increase in price, and that is because hopefully we're going to see more on course for the race.
Yeah.
And that is, that's strictly saying that's what I hope that money is going towards. That is not any sort of scuttlebutt. That is just, I hope they took our recommendation. They said, okay, this is what we need to do to make it happen.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they're going to add to the races. All they can really do are characters and photos. And I really do think they could just put more PhotoPass. I also think, not that we're into the questions yet, but I do think that the photographers needed to take more at a time because they were just doing one shot. And that was it. And that was a major complaint. We had a group of like 10 and all the girls were complaining, hey, I got like one shot and I'm like this, one person held a pose for a very long time, and then the second they dropped it, they got the shot. So, and it's silly, but also it's a Disney race. Like that's, people do this for that specifically. So,
I mean, I think if you're talking about, you were someone who bought PhotoPass for the week for this, and you're used to Walt Disney World where, you do a challenge and you've got, 60, 70 photos and at least, 30 to 40 decent ones.
yeah.
That's definitely a bit of a letdown. And I mean, we're talking about it, so we'll just roll with it. Like, I don't even care that there wasn't that many characters. The lack of PhotoPass and like the training put into it, like you said, like they weren't doing like concession shots, like they weren't taking multiple shots. I just don't think that the PhotoPass there was trained and ready for the event. And I just hope that they learn and improve from it. I mean, that's really all we can do.
There wasn't enough.
Yep.
And I had only one course photo from the half that like had me anywhere. Only one. Like I think there was one they claimed was mine, but I'm not in there at all. So, and there wasn't, what I noticed was because the course was so crowded. So I know, like, you had a whole different experience, but the course was so crowded for the people not in the very front of A.
Well, that is the reason that there were multiple people on this show.
Yeah, true.
No, I mean, so crowded that you were just like people.
You didn't move.
We will get into we will get into mile 3. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
But just the trying to see the PhotoPass photographers, you couldn't see them for one because you were like ensconced with people, and then there was very few times where you were facing a PhotoPass photographer where they would even get a shot if they were good at it. And then one more point on the subject. When have we had a finisher photo that did not include the banner?
I know.
None of my half, and I only did the half. None of my half finisher photos include anything but me. And like kind of the best finisher photos I've ever had for a Run Disney race, I will say. And I got to like enter at the right spot. But I could have been on any street USA finishing this race versus a Disney race. So like, they got to line that picture up a little bit so that you can have the race banner above you.
Let's talk about the castle photos.
Oh, well, I don't even have a castle photo.
Because those are so funny. And I get it, it's small, but my God, those were bad. And then I saw this. I did see the spoke to photographer who said Disney's flying them out. I don't speak for the company. I don't work for the company. But it's interesting because we met somebody who was working for Run Disney, and they said that Disney had offered to fly them out to World, and they declined. And so that's where I have to say, I feel like they do the learning curve themselves when they could easily have learned from World and applied it and made something incredible after 7 years. It was very fun. I had a blast. For the price it took everyone to go coast to coast, it's steep.
Right.
It's very steep for the value.
Especially for every race
that
you did, right?
Yeah.
I actually have a castle picture that is
actually a pretty good castle picture.
It's a good one. Like I'm trying to decide, do I buy these pictures?
That's pretty.
Right. It's a great picture. And I have a nice finisher photo, and I never like to actually have good photos is shocking, but
no, that's great.
it. I got one course photo. And okay. Well, we'll talk about.
Do we need to circle back to this?
Yes, because I have some thoughts about the half that would relate to the photos, but also relate to the course. So I feel like we can
circle back to this.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning of where all our races start, the Expo here. And I think we all had pretty different Expo experiences, or at least we all went different days and different times.
Yeah.
But
my Expo experience later.
Yes, I was there with Christy.
You joined me.
Yes. So I was there first day at the Expo. And honestly, like any Run Disney Expo, it was as crazy and wild as I expected it to be. It is a smaller area. and we knew that going into it. I really think they could have used at least one more like room somehow. I know they can't make space out of nowhere, but I think even one more room to like maybe put shirt pickup somewhere and open that up would have made a pretty big difference. The Disney merchandise itself, of course, they did the virtual queue. That was a little bit difficult in the beginning. We had virtual queue 17, and they started letting people line up, and they were trying to like organize them by it, and then finally, like probably 20 minutes before they actually like started the virtual queue, they're like, guys, if you're in this line, just leave. They're like, we don't need a line. And I was like, you're right. That's kind of the point of the virtual queue.
Yeah.
But then they had everyone in a panic because everyone felt like they had to be down there and in this line.
Well, and there already weren't pins, right? So there were already not things at the very beginning of the virtual queue opening. So I can see why people, especially like somebody like you, Ashley, you did all those miles. And what if what you wanted was, I don't even know if there was a Dumbo pin when at the beginning that first day. But I know there wasn't half pins. Like what I got one because Lake, you got one because some other person randomly got you one. Like the chain of events in order to get me a pin for the half. And I wasn't doing 70 miles of running that week. So it was even less important for me. But if you did it all, like I can see why you would want.
I think it's important to anybody, and I really wish that they would just include stuff like that. Like if you have half marathon runners, I'm sure people would not want this because it would increase their price again, and all the things. But a majority of people want those pins. To be honest, I pre-ordered all my merch because my journey was a little different. So I had Dopey for that one weekend. It's like longer than a weekend, but I did Dopey, and then I had a work conference at Disney, and then I flew out and did Dumbo. And so I couldn't fly out and get there until Friday morning. I had a very different experience, and I can go into that for the Expo. It wasn't my favorite. It really, I was not very happy with it, but also it was an Expo and I get it. And at World, I'm there for hours because that's just how it is. Everything's spread out. I think I had a great time getting my bib and my t-shirts, and I did pre-order a lot of merchandise because I knew this is the first race back in 7 years. People are going to be crazy, but you could only purchase really big packages. It was very expensive.
Yes, you needed
very expensive.
Like I have my jacket, which I absolutely love, and I wanted the weekend jacket because it's the first one back. But I have a T-shirt that I totally forgot about, and I would never have picked. Like it was a perfectly fine tech shirt, right? But I paid for it. No discounts were able to be used, and you end up with more. Just like I'm sure you had to get pins or whatever. You had to get every pin that was available for those races, and you want like a pin.
Yeah, I ended up having friends that were there. So I have a friend that's in Club Run Disney, and that worked out for me. Will that work every year? Definitely not. Like, would I need all this every year? No. I think too, like I used to buy so much merchandise, and now because of how difficult it is, I'm definitely pulling back because, I just don't need all of it. I really don't. And whenever the pricing is just going up, I'm like, oh, it's a lot. But I love the jacket. I did the same thing as you. I bought the jacket, and then I bought a Magic Key package that came with this shirt, and we call it the Tron shirt because it had like a little design like Tron on the shoulder. And I would never have picked that. Now, is it a cool shirt? Sure, I like it. And, what a lot of people do is just resell it. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'll end up either donating it or giving it to somebody else that wanted it or, I don't know, giving it away. But it's a lot of waste.
Bibs. They need to require a bib to shop.
Yeah, I love that.
And
I wish
that would help so much. In this limit of 2, because if you're doing 2 per size, then they just grab everything. Yeah. And with mobile checkout, you just like check it out in more than one place. So
that's crazy. There you go. It's a Disney trick.
If you've got multiple phones with the app and multiple accounts.
You're not wrong. And people, especially in California, just do the purchasing to resell. And so it's just it's tough. They do it in Florida too, really bad.
Right.
I really think they just should, one, honor discounts for pre-purchase,
Yeah,
and two,
sure.
just expand the pre-purchase program.
They would
And
sell
make
so
it
much
more
more.
specific.
They would make
They-
so much more money. They
Right.
really would if they would just do a pre-order. I don't know if they just don't know the capacity of what they can make for pins. Like if, you know, their manufacturer can only make 3,000 of this design or something due to materials and supply chain. But it's so weird to me that they don't just pre-order, take that number, and then make that.
Right.
Like they make so much more. I'm sure somebody in Disney purchasing right now is like, they have no idea, but but it's just a lot. Like, I mean, it feels like there would be easier ways to do this.
Well, after Wine and Dine, I was locked out of purchasing all the cute Figment things that I wanted, and I was doing a challenge and didn't get to have any of it. And okay, this is kind of impressive because my husband is listening.
I was reading this. I was like, wait a minute. Is that who I think just commented?
On an airplane. So
Husband of the year. We love that. Yes.
go Delta Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Because maybe it hasn't taken off yet, but either way, so it completely threw me off. And then they haven't taken off yet. So Nova, I will just answer your comment too really quick. They do not require a bib to make purchases. So, which is obviously a little bit, right? They could just do that. So anyway,
Yeah.
I got locked out of every Figment item. And like randomly, I think Lake and some other people told me I could buy this magnet at the parks at those like create an iPhone case place.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was able to at least get a magnet for the challenge weekend, or I would have got nothing. So I went on that day. Somebody else had said, hey, I'm pre-ordering now Disneyland merchandise because I can't get anything for this race.
Yep.
By the end of that day, because I think I went to relook or something, everything was closed off. So like I was able to pre-order my jacket, but anybody who didn't like get in on that day, everything was sold out. So even with a pre-order and buying like 3 things more than you wanted, you couldn't get in. The merch was amazing though.
It was.
Disneyland.
I knew
Let's
for
just
sure.
talk about that.
I knew it would be because it's Disneyland and they do a great job. So the second that I signed up, I ran to the pre-order and I figured there'd be nothing. And when I saw there was so much, I was like, well, guess I'm doing the magic key. Guess I want a jacket. Guess I'm like, do I need a pin package? No. But like, did I get the pins anyway? Yes. You know, it's like
you really could sell them a la carte, and then you could feel less gross about it by doing it at the price that they were.
Exactly. You absolutely
just say,
could because it's a lot. But
right. And you could say, I had to buy this as a pre-purchase. I had to get 30 of them.
Yeah.
So, because
this was back when we registered, one of the first races that really expanded the pre-purchase options, though, which is a positive, moving in the right direction. Will not, say that they have not, because it was only a year ago that we didn't have any pre-purchase, and we were saying, please bring back pre-purchase. Yeah. So, we are seeing some marginal improvements in that, I will admit.
And if you have a big race weekend coming up, I would just say go register first. Don't even look at any of that until you have the registration, because you will get cut out of registering while you're in. It's like in your cart and you're filling out stuff. So definitely register, then go back in and look at your pre-purchase. If it's a big race, if you're doing Dopey and you need a jacket, just buy it quickly. It's hard
as long as it's on there. Yeah. Money. And I wish they would put more of the Dopey merch, because anyone who's running Dopey needs
the merch.
And if you run it, you should have first access.
Yes.
And they can there are easy algorithms for that. And I wish they would.
Like Dave's comment.
Exactly.
A database of runners.
I know.
To check the purchaser.
It's the same with bibs. Don't get me started on bibs, but I had a whole convo on, what day is it today? I had it Sunday. And we were chatting about how they have run with Track Shack for years. Track Shack has all of their statistics. Like, they do it for all of the runs. And I'm sure Lake's got input on this. But it's like, and I get the proof of time. But as you're training, you get faster, and then you get a faster proof of time closer. And I know they have to have a cutoff, but I wish it would be a little closer for people. For me, I don't care. I'm not putting a proof of time. I'm just here to survive.
I was emailing Track Shack today about something. I'm not going to put it out here.
No, don't.
It's something that was my fault, but
but yeah,
still,
we had a friend who got put in D, but he is fast, and you probably would know him offline. He is so fast. And he was like, I'm a safety hazard. Like, we put these are out here for safety. You have corrals for safety. And I'm telling you right now, like, I want to be able to run this at my 6-7 minute pace. And you put me in D. This is not okay, you know? And he submitted a proof of time late. It's his fault. Totally get that. But if you do have a proof of time that you can show them, and they need to just build in wiggle room for 100 people per corral, and it would make things better for everybody. I think people would be much happier with the experience. Personally.
We did see with Disneyland, with Halloween half, they expanded the time for.
I didn't see that.
Yes, it moved.
What did they say?
It's up to
2.5.
2:30.
Oh.
So 2 hour 30 minutes, unless you can now submit a proof of time, which again is moving in the right direction.
Yeah. My hope is that if you submit that, you would. I'm interested to see if you submit at 2:30, will you be placed before somebody who says they don't have a proof of time, but that they do it in, 8
Well,
minutes?
now now the drop down box will probably have 2:30 be the top level.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If
I would
the
hope
proof of
so.
time is at that level,
Because
isn't that
I've
how it usually
submitted.
works?
Yeah, I've submitted a proof of time that wasn't great, and this was years ago, when it was different qualifications totally. And I ended up in D, and then, if you don't submit a proof of time, you get better spots. So I could, people can run faster, but I do think from C through F, it gets really dicey. And I know they have to do it for safety. There's so many runners, but what were your thoughts really quick on no heats? Like no heats.
Oh,
in
yeah.
a
No
crowd?
mini waves.
Yeah, mini waves.
mean,
yeah.
Would we want to talk about that when we get to the races?
Yeah, I think this is I think that's most prevalent when we get to the half.
Yeah,
for sure.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about corrals and everything.
With him.
Let's just circle back to the actual expo itself. I thought bib pickup was pretty much same as always. It was pretty easy. I know there were a couple weights like kind of at that rope drop, but I don't think anything was too wild or crazy. Shirt pickup, kind of the same. I like that you could get from bib pickup to shirt pickup, and you didn't have to go all the way to the back of the crowded expo.
Yeah.
You still had to walk through the expo to exit, but
Yeah.
I thought it was fine for the space that they used and what they made with it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
It was as crowded and hectic as I expected. I don't know that it was really any worse than World. World has the luxury of a lot more space that they can utilize.
Yeah.
I thought Disneyland did the best job they could with what they had.
Your video, actually, because I watched your expo video on Mouse Gen, and I felt like it looked like you had space to do things, like to move around. Like it was crowded, but I didn't feel like from watching the video that it was oppressively crowded once you were in the merchandise area.
I have not had an experience that's been worse than 2023 marathon weekend. Or wait, it might have been 2022 marathon weekend. It was whatever. It was before virtual queue started, and it was like,
that's my shirt, and it was horrible. I'm repping the 2022.
Oh, I love that.
yeah, that was
bad.
yeah. Honestly, like I think the virtual queue for the most part does what it needs to do. Like that really, it was hectic in there. People grabbing stuff, they didn't have a lot of space for you to find spots to try things on, unlike World.
They were moving people out of there. They weren't even letting people look at their merch to decide.
Security was really wild, and I think that they really need to look at whoever they used as a third-party staff for that, because it definitely was third-party staff. I came on Friday. We didn't have a virtual queue, so I definitely had a different experience. We had a fantastic time getting bibs, fantastic time getting shirts. Merchandise in that area was such a mess that I just said, nope, I pre-ordered. I'm good. I'm going out. I'm going to go home. Whatever, go back to the room. And the second that I turned to leave, it was like security at the door, every door except one. They were all ushering you out.
Oh, yeah.
Totally understand. But then we need to really limit how many people are in this building instead of just letting everyone free for all and then screaming at everybody when they come in. Because it was a really not great experience from security. And the bib was great. The shirts were great. The other pickup was great. I genuinely looked at the merchandise, saw how insane it looked like cattle, and I was like, this is not worth my time. If there's anything I really want, I'll find it on eBay for $1 billion, but I don't need it. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, they just needed more signage for the exit process.
Yeah.
Like, they needed, like, tape on the floor saying, you know, exit this direction. Because they did, when you exited, they had a counter there. I was watching them, like, you know, they were going through counting, you know, people coming out. I don't know if
they did on Friday when I went, but...
Yeah, it wasn't bad when I was there Friday, right? Like, we were there...
It was like at Friday afternoon.
Yeah, late afternoon.
I went at noon. I went like 12:31. Yeah, on Friday. Because I didn't want to go to opening. I was like, it's going to be a line, and I feel like I could wait a minute. But I think they did the bib perfectly. I had a lot of space. I don't know what day one was like if you had to wait outside. But there was no line. I walked in and got my bib.
Right. They could have used some of that space maybe. Okay, so this... Should we move on from the expo?
Yeah, we probably should move on from the expo. The only other thing I was going to say is similar to the rest of the weekend, no characters for photos. They did not have the mile marker signs like Disney World has, which I think might just be one of those things that's going to be a difference.
I agree.
Because those mile signs are just rethemed race after race. It's the same sign every time, essentially.
Wrapped again.
Well, and they're big and they take up a lot of space, and they don't have the space
exactly.
For it. You
or we might see that added
for it on Harbor Boulevard, where they could have put some things out there when the race was over, and there wasn't really anything to take a picture with
in the parking lot.
Felt like there was space there.
They're so weird because it's not Disney property, and so that's
well, it is though, right? Like, isn't that? I feel like Nova told me that was a lot or something that Disney owned.
So
that lot, I think, is because that was the one where they proposed the parking structure originally, and there was a bunch of city backlash.
Yeah. She just commented they own it.
Nova says, yeah, they own it.
So
yeah, there was clearly some interesting political, like just dynamics, not even political, but just dynamics between the city and Disney, and you could see it play out very easily. But it was just interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move into 5K. None of us ran the 5K. Katie and I did get up to go and spectate, which was unfortunately kind of a negative experience, only because they advertised it like on the Expo Pass that, you can come and see the finish, which is in California Adventure. Of course, the start of this race was in Disneyland down Main Street. I will note a lot of, yes, very cool. It seemed like a lot of issues of people getting into their corrals and where they needed to be because the corrals, it was not like an inline corral situation. There were corrals kind of wrapped around the main hub there. So people did say there was some confusion there, but otherwise, like, cool experience.
Yeah.
Mr. and Major Ducky says 5K start was awesome in front of the castle. Anyways, though, so finish, you were supposed to be able to go in, and it said you could see the finish, essentially, in California Adventure. So we went in there, and they sent us in the side entrance by Earl of Sandwich there, which is where we ran out of one of the days.
Yeah.
And it was cool to get to go in there. However, you could not see the finish. The finish was all the way down past Void to the Little Mermaid. They only let you up there kind of in that hub by the coffee cart, which only gave you like maybe 200 feet of space to actually be able to see the course and the runners. And they were like, weren't letting you go anywhere else. So there was just like a mass of people who could not see. Finally, they let you like go down kind of after the finish. So you could see people after they finished, which ended up being fun because like then you could stop and talk to the people you knew.
Yeah.
But they needed to have a better plan, I think, because like they could have taped off, a section going up towards the Pixar Pier Bridge there and like just expanded where people could have stood. There was just not enough space.
Yeah. I heard the same thing about the corrals, but I did, obviously that was the one with fireworks. My qualm with it is if we could have fireworks for the 5K in the park, when we started the 10K, couldn't we have shot off fireworks in the park that they could see? And that's where I'd be interested. I don't know. Don't live in California. But it would have been nice to have some sort of fireworks you could see from where we were when we started. But for the 5K, I heard it was great.
Or even like we've seen Disney do some pretty cool alternatives. For Tower of Terror, we had the flames. which was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
you're not wrong. Yeah. So, I mean, there were options, and I think they'll do them. You know, it's the first year back. They got to get back their feet into it. You would hope they have it all figured out. They don't. They're going to relearn and get feedback, but.
And we're doing a rundown. We all loved it. We all had.
Oh, yeah.
We loved the
Yes,
weekend.
I don't think any of us
all
will tell
had
you
the
we.
most amazing trips.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
That. But
it was one of the best Disneyland trips. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's just definitely things they can make.
Yes, there was nothing more magical than having all of your best friends go to Disneyland with you.
Run through the castle. Just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really all I have for the 5K if we want to move into the 10K and
the
really get
cool, though,
into
right?
this.
Like, I think we have to say that too.
The course looks incredible. Oh my gosh.
Right. Like those courses seem like it was where it was at.
Yeah. It's amazing. I would go back and do the 10K all day long. I really would. Yeah. And I mean, I know we're about to transition into it, but I loved the 10K course map. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. 10K, I think, is the highlight of the weekends.
I agree. If you're running one race at Disneyland, do the 10K if they keep the same course map. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Look at this comment. Put that comment up. Like, I don't have privileges to be able to do it. But Nova's comment,
about confetti or Anaheim?
Confetti.
Yeah, so, Nova said Universal did continuous confetti cannons when they did the races over there.
That would be cool. And they're right in the middle of all of that residential. So,
yes. So into the 10K, this is the one where, you know, kind of the show begins and you got to do the walk across harbor. We were staying at Disneyland Hotel, which we had booked thinking like, oh yeah, the races, you know, used to start right here on the road. We weren't upset because quite frankly, no matter where you stayed, you could walk. It wasn't any longer than the walk that you would make from the staging area to the highway, which, as I've said, I am pro that start, so I'm not going to complain about this walk either.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. We walked past Grand Cal, met up with our friends, and all walked over there together. I will say the old school security, a little bit of a miss for me.
But that's going to be there.
I don't know what you can do differently there except for have more. Funny enough, it was better for us on the half day than the 10K day.
For sure. I think they made it better already on the half day than the 10K. We got there pretty early on the 10K, and I'm glad we did. They didn't let us in on the 10K day, I don't think, until like 3:45 or something. Maybe it was at 4. They let us all through security. But I never bring a bag. I just do it. And luckily they had a no bag line that was really fast. I was with a bunch of friends with bags. They also got through just as fast. So the 10K, I heard from other people, was like a 45-minute wait. Like, what was your experience going through?
We were fairly early. I think we waited about 20, 25 minutes, but it was fine. We had time. Yeah. There was no waits for anything else at that point.
Yeah. I feel like it probably feels like a lot when you're in the moment, but when you look back, you're like, that wasn't that crazy. It's a little nerve-wracking when you're up that early, just wanting to get to your area. But we got right in and did the show. You know, we listened to the DJ, and then I went to my corral because I think for that one I was B or C, and I just want to be the front.
Did have what is this question? Proof of time question. Will they prioritize folks that submit proof of time? Corralsi is curious. So that would depend on your proof of time. As of right now, I think it's 2:15 or less, which should put you in A or B, which would put you ahead of Corralsi either way. If you submitted something that's going to be less than that, then there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 10K, corrals were obviously, I think, smaller for the most part. 10K, I did not think it was too huge of an issue. I was in A. It was full for sure, and you don't need POT 2 to get into A. I thought everyone was like super friendly in the corral. Like, we weren't there particularly early, and people like let us, move up to where would be more appropriate for us. But you could definitely tell it was smaller, and that was kind of a foreshadow for the next day. I will say the start, like the big start situation for that with the screen, very cool.
I loved that. Okay, I was hoping you would say you liked it because I thought that screen was awesome, especially because there weren't many screens. I don't know if I'm used to more screens at World. I guess I am, and louder speakers. But I was in C, and when you think about it, it's A, B, C,
It's
and
a
then
straight
everyone lines
line.
up behind you, straight line, totally different than what you're used to at World, where there's multiple screens. It's a lot more space. So it was a little intimidating just looking at it because it felt like we were really all going to run on top of each other. But I didn't have that experience. I thought it was pretty good, and I was in C. So, Christy, were you in?
I didn't do the
Christy
10K.
did not do the 10K.
Gotcha.
I did
Yeah.
listen to somebody. Lake, did you listen to it? I sent it to you guys.
The story expired before I could get to it.
Okay. Katie, I know, listened to it. It was very long. It was like a podcast, but in somebody's stories about the race. And she had indicated that for the 10K that people were entering in the wrong corrals, and that for B and C and D, they just weren't even checking that carefully. So
that
I
didn't
don't
happen to
know.
me, but I did hear
Yeah.
other people felt like that was happening. I don't know if they had proof that was happening. For me, they checked like 3 times.
Okay.
So,
And then
and I was there early, so maybe it was closer to start that they just kind of gave up. I don't know.
yeah, and that could very well be what happened. And then this particular person was asked if they were at like the front of the corral almost, and they were asked if they wanted to go and be interviewed. And so she was like, sure. So they pulled them to the back of the corral,
Yeah.
interviewed them, and then left them.
Yep. That happened to some friends got pulled, did the exact same thing, got left. And they tried to push forward. People were really mad. Like the C corral was a little scary. I think people were nervous. They had heard things about A corral or 5K corral being difficult. And so it was a little nerve wracking. But the second we got on the street, it's so large that, I mean, I did see somebody did fall in mine, but it was because of the lights. So they were just blinded by how bright the light were. I don't know, but that's what they were yelling. It was just kind of crazy. I did see more falls in all of these races than I have ever seen in a Run Disney race.
Yeah.
Really
And
interesting. But
lots of people talked about falling. And
Yeah.
I saw several people bite it basically, and like some bad falls.
No, me too. Yeah.
But again, I'd only done the half.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw one fall in the 10K and I saw 4.5, but we'll talk more about that. I mean, it's a road race. It's kind of trail, to be honest, because of all the bumps, and I get it if this is one of the first 10K.
Those like
Yeah.
circular bumps on the
Mhm.
road,
Mhm.
I almost tripped on one of those.
I did too.
Those are like way more aggressive than
Yeah.
whatever you call the other things. Yes, and we had a railroad crossing as well as Disneyland does not have the strips to fill in the holes on Main Street, whereas Disney World, they have the little strips that fill in the railroad track.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so you have a lot more opportunities to fall and hurt yourself for sure. And it is surprising because World's got the caution athletes such and such ahead, like all the time. Caution, boardwalk, maybe slippery.
I may have
And I
said
don't think
that.
I heard any of that.
You would have if you were running by me at various times. I had the voice and everything, and I would just, because there would be all these like danger areas. So I was like, caution athletes. It was funny. I was in my own party.
People were absolutely goofing like that the whole time.
I was in my own party of one.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. I mean, there were a lot of people doing that in D on the half for sure, but for the 10K, the trail was just like the course was just incredible.
Mhm.
I mean, going through every single land in both DCA and Disneyland. Yeah, Nova's right. They just had real humans screaming, be careful. But that's hilarious. That's absolutely correct. I did see a lot of cast members just screaming, be careful, railroad tracks, whatever. But no, the course map for the 10K, I cannot say it enough. It was so good.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Through the castle, like all of it. I was like, this is amazing.
When I went through the half, though, railroad tracks, I know now I'm like ADD child just going off on a tangent, but were there there were railroad tracks in the parks, but then on the road for the
Yes, there
half,
was real railroad tracks.
they just had the gates down and they didn't have anybody telling you were like not going to get run over by a train and that they were just down for who knows what reason or beeping.
I did
and,
look.
yeah, for real. But
Oh, me too.
doesn't that seem like the place
Yep.
to say we're going to put down?
I took lots of videos then.
Yeah.
Because everyone's been talking about the Bright Line. Obviously, the Bright Line's hit a couple people. It's not great. But the railroad track that kept going down was crazy. I could not believe that they just let that alarm go for every railroad track.
And then didn't tell people that there was not going to be a train running you over.
It was crazy. Yeah, everyone was doing what Major Ducky's saying. I looked and everyone's like, well, I'm just going to beat the train. And I would hear that all around. I'm like, I don't want to beat I'm not beating a train. The train's going to beat me.
Right.
That much. Lake might, but I'm not beating the train.
Yeah, we can get more into. I do have some things about the city miles that I think were not so cool. I have one particular thing that actually I don't even think I've said, but I'll go on. It was fine for the situation we were in, but later in the race, it would not have been cool. Anyways, though, let's go back to the 10K. 10K was the highlight of the weekend. A super amazing course. You run through every land of Disneyland Park, or every land of California Adventure, cut across the street, go through every land of Disneyland. And I felt like they did a good, like, the music, sometimes in World we just get, like, kind of bops. And I felt like it wasn't necessarily like that. Like, some areas, were bopping. But some areas were kind of more of like their normal background music, which kind of made every section feel very different on the race.
I loved that. I completely agree. My headphones died as soon as I went into Disneyland Park, and it was for the better. I was like, this is amazing to get to be in the moment and hear the Disneyland land music. The Matterhorn had a 10K projection that not a lot of people saw. And I thought that was so interesting because it was so beautiful. And then on the half marathon day, they also did one. But the 10K was really neat because it said 10K. It wasn't just like half marathon weekend, this or that. It was very thematically well done. And yes, there weren't that many characters. I know everybody had a qualm with that. But I loved that it was focused on the parks. Mm-hmm. And they definitely needed more photographers so you could have cooler photos in every area. I agree.
Yes.
You have to think of how small those areas are. And I mean, I was in C. We were completely fine going through. There were moments like going towards Star Wars where it got very crowded, but we never came to a stop. Half marathon's different, but we never came to a stop during the 10K at all. It was free flowing, moving. People knew kind of what they were doing. And even when it would bottleneck, it was okay. So I just loved the 10K. That goes down as one of my favorite races of all time, probably because of the course.
Oh yeah. Easily my favorite 10K course.
Ever.
Like ever. It was just absolutely fantastic.
I know. I'm sure. I know. Well, I was supposed to get into Dumbo, and then I got 10K in half and couldn't get into Dumbo, and Lake and them were nice enough to share all their Dumbo things. But it was, it's just that I wish that if you sign up for both, you could automatically get in.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't understand why. Why can't you? Silly.
You pay more to pay the 10K and a half. Yeah.
So,
but yes, 10K amazing. Everyone should do the 10K. If I gave one recommendation of any Run Disney race across the country, I would say do it. Do the 10K at Disneyland. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Even coming into the finish, obviously another kind of new finish area for us. I thought that section was good. Seemed to run pretty good for us. They had like that weird kind of snake at the end. Mm-hmm. We are going to have another guest on here, which is going to be great because she is going to have a very interesting perspective from the half marathon.
Yes, and she has a limited time, but she thought, would it be a good idea, Nova, who we were commenting about, would it be a good idea to give her end of the half story really quick? Because
yes, we are going to go ahead and let her go. So Nova, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello.
It is great to have you on. So we're going to go ahead. I don't think I really have anything else I need to say about the 10K.
Nope. All good.
Okay.
We loved it.
So
Next.
we'll move into the half, and we're going to go ahead and let Nova give her bit, because Nova does have kind of an interesting story about what happened during the half marathon. So, Nova, go ahead. You can take it away and give your say.
Yeah. So I had like a knee injury and wasn't able to like train really. And this would have been my 6th half marathon. So I was sort of like, I'm just going to show up and see what happens. I'm pretty sure like Lake texted me at one point being like, just so you know, the half marathon soon. I hope you're training. And
I think I did that too.
I was like, yeah, sure. But
and then even at the end, when Lake's like, okay, now you have 10 days left. Do this for me. Because I was like,
Lake,
yeah.
how do I do this if I didn't train? And Lake was like, haha, good luck. You'll be fine. So
that is not what I said, for the record.
I think what Lake said is you can do it, which is very sweet. And honestly, my whole stance was like, whatever happens, I'll be chill. Like, I'll be good, because I never got to run a Run Disney race in Disneyland. I found Run Disney when it was at Disney World. Disneyland is my home park. I love Disneyland. And so whatever it would be great. And for the half K marathon, I knew that the beginning was the interesting part. So I was like, we'll just see what happens. So anyway, I was running. Everything was going okay, except my body hurt more than it has ever hurt in a race, literally ever. It was so hard. And I had texted Lake being like, this is harder than anything I've ever done. And Christy was like, you should stop at the Starbucks and get some coffee and like stuff. So literally I ran off the course. I mobile ordered while running, ran off the course, got a coffee, trying to just power
and a
through.
snack because you needed a little food.
Yeah, I hadn't really eaten that day, which is my fault as well. So anyway, all that being said, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to finish. And like mile 7 came and there were like thousands of people still behind me. You know how you get to a place in a course where you can look back and there's like a hill behind you so you can see how many people are behind you? I could see there were a ton of people behind me. But then around mile 8, they were saying, hey, the balloon ladies are 2.5 minutes back. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I about to experience getting walked off of this course or whatever that's like? And for those of you who expected the balloon ladies to be like a crowd of ladies with balloons, there were 2 women with white balloons tied to their waist. And I didn't even know they had passed me. But there was an injury. Someone fell. They had to like rush and get an ambulance. And one of the balloon ladies had stopped there. And I remember hearing someone yell like, you have to keep going. You're pacing. It's fine. Keep going. So the woman was like, okay, fine. So she ran ahead. And I was like, okay, well, I'm officially behind these balloon ladies. And this woman next to me was like talking to me and saying, hey, do you know what's about to happen? And I was like, literally, I have no idea. And she was like, well, I think at mile 9, they have a hard stop where they're going to sweep people if they're not there. And they have like buses waiting. And mile 9 was the Honda Center. And like, sure enough, we came around the corner towards the Honda Center and there were like 4 or 5 buses parked there. And the funny thing is, I was literally one of the first like 10 people swept. And they were saying, if you can push harder and run through us, it's fine. But I was like, no, I've settled my score. I'm not going to run through you.
Yes.
So like, I turned to get on the bus or whatever. And honestly, I was texting Christy and Lake like I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I went 9 miles without training. Like this is honestly a huge achievement. And I can finish the last 4 miles today on my own and still feel like I earned the medal. And I was feeling honestly optimistic. But y'all, that bus was full of so many people just like weeping and silently crying. And I realized like...
Didn't you say too, there was like a wall of people at some point? saying
There's a wall of people
literally
that
just
stand across
Yeah.
and they wave you onto the buses. So there were people trying to weave and stuff, but by the time they were only allowing weaving like right for my group where they were like, if you can get past us and keep going. But I was like, I'm not going to get past you just to be swept at like
No. Yeah.
the Anaheim River wash or whatever it is. Um, so I was like, I'm gonna let this be. Like 9 miles is an accomplishment. I feel good about it.
Yeah.
And so, but it's interesting. I think for me, I didn't know what it was like to be swept. I've done the Disney World half twice. I've done other half marathons, and like I was never at a pace where I was at a risk of being swept. But in this case, I thought, oh, I could, and I don't know what it'll be like. And it wasn't like dehumanizing. It wasn't really scary. I just think like for some people, it represented failure. And for me, I'm like, no, we have to reframe that like 9 miles is an accomplishment. Like
Yeah.
that is such an accomplishment. And it's not just about finishing, it's about like doing what you could. And like to have started at all is an accomplishment. And so that was really where my head was at. But I realized with Run Disney Rundown, we haven't really had someone who was swept. Maybe we have, but I don't remember us having someone who was swept. So I told Lake and Christy I should hop in and just be like, hey, here's what it's like. They're not mean to you. They even were sort of like, you want to keep running? And I was like, no, ma'am, I'm good. And while some people were in high spirits on the bus, I think the hardest thing for me was to see like the sadness that people seem to be feeling. Because it's like, I get not crossing the finish line is difficult, but like you still made it 9 miles.
9 miles is an accomplishment.
And a lot of it was through like really ugly parts of Anaheim.
Oh my
so
God.
like you really did it.
The best parts, like, or the worst parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those 3 miles that they ran through, right, from the park exit, basically, or 3.5, almost 4 miles.
Yeah. The like tile shops and like, yeah. But anyway, I just thought I'd pop in and share that because it's not not everyone gets swept. I've also heard that they're more intense about sweeping in Disneyland than they are at Disney World because they got some tight time constraints with the city of Anaheim where like they have to be cleared by a certain time. And so, you know, if you are worried about being swept, you know, Disneyland is a riskier Run Disney location just because they have to fight with the city of Anaheim to make sure the streets are opened by a certain time. Yeah. So anyway, that's my experience. And I would say, even if you're worried that you could get swept, I think it's so cool to say you tried.
Yeah.
Also, okay, here's my inspirational thing. You know what was playing when I got swept? I've never thought about this song in my life, ever. But I had a Run Disney playlist on. And this song was that gazelle from Zootopia. Singing, I won't give up, no, I won't give in. And that whole
to
song
try
is
everything,
about failing, but then trying again. And I was sitting on the bus being like, that is so of the moment right now. I'm not trying to be like a Disney adult that's like too creepy, but I'm like, come on, this song is like perfect for like, hey, I might not even reach the end, but I'll get up and I'll try again. And I'm like, and that's when I texted Lake and Katie and was like, I'm doing the Halloween race or whatever, because I'm like, I'll try again.
Yeah.
This gazelle told me to. I'm going to keep
That's what it's about, though. I mean, it's personal goals. It doesn't, you know, I mean, that's an incredible story and it's really inspirational. And I feel like a lot of people out there are so scared to even try it. And so to have done 6 and be like, hey, this is my 6th one, I got swept, like, is what it is. And I had a great time. That's how I felt in the 3rd marathon. So, and I did not get swept, but there were times where I thought, who knows? So I think a lot of runners can identify with that. And that's just really special. So thanks for sharing.
Awesome. Well, and like I said, I think I told Katie I'm going to do the 10K if I can get it for Halloween. And then maybe I'll do the half marathon again next January if they offer it. Because I feel like that would be the perfect training pace for me.
Yeah.
Like work my way up to a 10K and then from there already be in pretty good shape to run the half in January.
You just did. You did more than
you've done the 10K.
So you're fine.
We know you're there.
Oh, yeah. No, I can finish a 10K. That's true. But and also through the best parts. But I do think like I need to get a finish at a Disneyland half.
Yeah, you do.
So I'll try for next year. But it was really nice to just do anything. Okay, well, that was me hopping in and interrupting you, but now I have to leave. You all are great. Love you. See you soon.
Thank you, Nova. Oh, I'm glad Nova popped in for that.
Same.
Yes,
I was like, I'm just gonna send her the link, and then Lake will be like, "What is happening?" So
no, I caught on. I knew what was going on there. That was great, and like you said, a great perspective because we've never had someone on the show who got swept. So you know, something a little bit different from my point of view, particularly.
Oh, in the A, where I'm just like
crowd.
the free running with the whole street.
8 hours later, and I'm still on mile 12 ahead of you. Like, Lake, what's going on? Where's Katie? And then she's PRing. I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you guys later.
It's like my favorite part, though, is I get to finish. I get to like track and cheer for everyone.
No, it's got to be so fun. Like, what's that like?
Well, let me tell you, I got a whole channel of like 40 race videos.
I know. No, it's amazing.
All right.
One day,
So,
I want to get to there. That's where I'm trying. We'll see.
Goals.
I'm not
Goals.
making it too competitive because I'm really competitive every single day in what I do for work. But I want to get there. We'll see.
I want to hear more about competitive work. We'll get that'll be
Oh,
another.
God.
We'll have to meet for a happy hour.
Yeah, I would love that.
you should try it. It's really. I have actually done races from back corrals. Katie and I have done a number of 10Ks together, 5Ks. And I actually
Crowded,
did not
right?
start. I did not start in A. My first run Disney race, I was in like one of the last corrals,
Yeah.
and I literally like worked my way up at that
I feel
time.
like back then too, if you said it was your first run Disney race, they really didn't care what your time was. They put you towards the back. Like I know when I started, I was way in the back for a long time, and I had proof of times that would get me better, but I never really like they just weren't great.
I mean, there used to be G and H and I corrals. I started in a G before.
And like you really have to make that pace. Like you push it to the limit. You can't see a ton of characters, but you know, it's worth it to work your way up to something like
Well,
A
and
or
the issue for me too is the weaving around people. So like, you know, further back, it's even worse where I'm not fast, but I'm consistent and I'm not walking the whole way and I can move from place to place. Like, you know, to definitely move over and not walk in the middle of the course when you're doing your walking, because it just becomes we lost Lake.
I'm here. I'm good.
Okay.
I just got to reload.
It just becomes a lot more strain on your body, and you know some of the self-talk isn't the best when you're just weaving around walkers that are either on the left or so. You know, the idea is that if you're walking, you move to the right.
That one.
I completely agree with that. I think I think C is like that hump of the corral where you can get yourself in a better position in C to have a happier race. And that's always my perspective on it. And you can have a good race in any of them, but once you hit like D, F, like it's hard. You are sitting there waiting 30 more minutes to run, already in a harder mind space.
Unless you're at Disneyland and they just put everybody out at one time. So we can go back to the start of this race.
Yes, which we definitely should.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So some issues, I guess I'm taking over for a sec, but some issues we noticed from before the race even started was the bathroom line. Like Lake almost, in my opinion, it was late, so it didn't really matter, but we didn't know the race was going to be late. But Lake almost like didn't get in his spot. Like I was stressed for him because we were all in line for the bathroom for way too long. And it was like 15 minutes to start time. And we still had to like weave to that other area. So like I felt like that they needed to either make it more clear that there was another row of bathrooms on the other side.
Yes, I was going to say, I had no clue there was bathrooms on the other side.
But they didn't have those for the 10K, did they? Because
I have no clue.
Remember those. I really don't know, but I really don't think they did.
Yeah, I have no clue. But it just seems like they had that whole other row that was just like the fence there. Like
Right.
you could have just had more restrooms.
You couldn't see it. So they could have also just told you that while you're waiting, like if you're going into A through C corral area where you had to like show a bib or something, whatever it was like they divided it in half,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Where
yes.
some people went this way, some people went this way. That
Gotcha.
there was a whole row of bathrooms. Okay, so then that happened. We got in our corrals, right? And we froze because it was freezing, but it was fine. Like I cuddled your sister. We had a nice snuggle before, and that was like a huge. Once we like separated to be able to start running, we were like, oh, it's much chillier not cuddling. So we cuddled, and then you know they just let the entirety of the corral go at one time. So that was a choice.
Yeah,
Choice
so rumor was Major Ducky says, yeah, they were still zip tied shut for the 10K.
Okay. Because I didn't even notice those over there at all. And to be honest, I will just hold it until I'm in the park, whether I'm about to pee or not. Like I will just not. I'm gonna wait for the park. But yeah. Anyways, I saw that row and I sent a bunch of friends over there, so it would be much faster. So glad they had those for 13.1 for that.
Yeah. Corral for the half, way more crowded in general. I think for every corral, A was packed full. And as Christy said, we were almost late. Like it's not like we were very timely. There was not a lot of pushing up. You will see like in my half video, it's going to come out Thursday. We were kind of in the middle of the pack, but it was not moving. Even with the highway in the beginning, it was not moving very quickly. I was one of those people that went up on that little ledge there. And I was like, I don't want to be this person. I was like, but I also don't want to run a 12-minute pace out of this corral right now.
Yeah, it's totally
Yeah, and like that's the thing is you
Yeah.
shouldn't. That shouldn't even be a choice.
Yeah.
Once we made the turn, though, totally fine. Wide open all the way back through Anaheim. You know, same thing. Definitely some good space there. But then after that, once you start to get towards the park, you definitely narrow again. And I think I'll let you two kind of take it from here, talking through the park time, because, you know, as you have made fun of me before, park time for me was a breeze, a great time. So I will let you guys give your piece here, and then I will pick back up on the road because I do have some issues with the road portions.
I'll do miles 1 and 2. So one of my Disney bucket list things is to see that creepy Dumbo. And I was Corral C, and that creepy Dumbo had gone inside.
Aww.
Okay, I get people need breaks. It had been like 30 minutes. But like, I was dying to see the creepy Dumbo. We did not wait because I could not have waited more time to see said creepy Dumbo. But I just love to say it. But so mile 1, you know, as soon as you start going in the park, I mean, I'm doing a thing with my hands, but it was bottleneck. And then I was like, "Ooh, this is a little scary, but we're gonna keep going." Mile 2, I was like, "Ooh, we're getting scarier." And then we hit mile 3, and Christy, you can share what that looks like.
Well, I honestly don't know if I blocked out the stopping, but I'm assuming because I was in C too, so I'm assuming we were stopped.
So I was in D for the half.
Okay.
So that could have been
So
because
maybe
I had to buy them separate. So I think I was C and D. D for the half was crazy because
it was
we
so
stopped
crowded though.
fully at the water stop. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know that I stopped fully, but I don't know that I didn't. But for sure, there were people in C who stopped fully because somebody was reporting that. They did make us in C. I usually am towards the back and the side because I have like a claustrophobia issue. I can't
Fair.
be like in the middle of all that. And so, but they moved us forward in the corral before it started several times.
Mhm.
So we were moving up a little bit. Maybe that made a difference, but it was just so crowded throughout the race and slippery, obviously, that part was hard. Like you couldn't even always see the shifts in the roads and the turns because you were just in like a pile of people.
Yeah. I
The water
agree.
stop was a complete stop in F in mile 3.
Yeah.
We
We
waited
waited.
4 minutes to
Yep.
move.
Yep.
Like, that's not okay. They need waves. Like, who would have thought that we would love a wave so much? I mean, anybody, but like, and all the little stops. Can we also go back for 1 second? Why are we counting down from 5? I was not prepared for that mentally. I need a countdown from 3. Lake, you're just
I'm muted.
mouthing.
Carissa was not
Yeah.
prepared for that either, apparently.
Yeah, that was funny.
I'm like, I need a 3, 2, 1. I also need the race to start on time. And so
that stressed everybody out. And
Right?
so again, like I do these very much for fun, and I am not a lackadaisical gal. I'm very type A. But when they started late, I was like, oh, it is what it is. After a while, you kind of start looking around. You see like the House of Blues window. Like you start getting a little creeped out. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like now at
Right.
this point, we've waited maybe 10 minutes, however long it was. It started to get a little scary. I was like,
and just tell us what's happening too.
there's a lot
like,
of people. Yeah.
Right. Give us the information. So, right, they packed in the corrals and then started. Okay, so it was very crowded. It was very dark in some of the areas of that race. Very dark. And because it was crowded, you didn't have the privilege of being lake where you could look ahead and see what was happening because all you could see were people.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
so yeah.
I agree with this water stop comment. I think that the course engineers call me up for real, because that was where the water stops were. One was before mile 1, and what's the point? I mean, why do we need one before mile 1? That's just, it was crazy to me. And then the next one was somewhere else, and then I believe there was one in between mile 1 and mile 3, but the mile 3 was horrible. It was where Soren is, for anyone who didn't see the course map, was to the left of where Soren is when you're bottlenecking to get across. And I understand.
Right. And it was at a narrow spot.
It was a narrow spot already. Again, and then this is what I talked about with friends on Sunday. Why on both sides? Why does Disney do both sides? Do the right side where people are walking, and like maybe put one little section for runners and say like everyone only goes there if you're trying to sprint by and throw water at everybody, because I don't know, like, what's it like to run like a 6-minute mile and try and grab a water? Is that even realistic?
Oh, I've definitely thrown cups on the people.
Off the rails.
Not necessarily at Disney, but yes, there's been like turning around and screaming, "I'm sorry," when you miss your cup.
Yeah.
But they should have a whole line, because nobody's taking it from that side that's running on a whole line.
And just the space in general. So, right, think about how much space you need. I also felt like they were running out of water cups. Like they weren't refilling them as fast as they were giving them.
They didn't have enough volunteers, but it was also too many for the area and the space. So I was having to grab cups off of the table.
Yeah, same.
In a space where we're completely stopped. So it's like, this is now becoming kind of anarchy because everyone's just grabbing off the table instead of even letting the volunteers do their job, which is not what you want to do. But when you're stopped for, like they said, 4 minutes, I mean, I know we were stopped for at least 2 and we were in D. So and then you immediately come to spectators. And so that's narrow as well, crossing
so narrow.
And everyone's looking for their family and stopping. And like, we had a friend that was there. My friend's mom was there. And so I'm scanning, looking all over, and you would think it's so small that you could see them, but you're passing so quickly. Like I'm passing like 20, 30 people as we're running very fast. So I don't know. They could do better on the spectator spots in relation to what Lake said previously too.
So Vacation Mode commented that she wanted water, but ended up with Powerade. So the one thing to note is that water is always first at a Disney race. And then Powerade is going to be the second one. So
it's opposite.
Oh,
on the half, Powerade is usually first for Disney, and water is second.
Right. So you can rinse it with the water.
But this weekend there was some inconsistencies with a lot of that.
It was the same, but also they were announcing it, but maybe they stopped announcing it for a while because people would say, "I have water, I have Powerade," or maybe I could be double fisted. It was Powerade first, right? I thought blue was a weird choice too. Like I was like, when we first got to the first Powerade and we saw that it was blue, I was like, well, that's a choice.
So
and
for the first one,
nothing.
Yeah, for the first one, I
Besides
noticed it was
blue.
water to power. I love blue Powerade. So I was very excited about that. But I did see it was water to Powerade for the first one and then Powerade to water. And in the moment, I was like, you guys thinking, why would you do water before Powerade in the last one? Like, that doesn't make sense for what you're trying to do. But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So, liquid cotton candy. So, yeah, I just either way. So then we get to like we're done with the parks, right? Basically, we're ready to move on. Like the parks were great; they were fine. Very few photo pass stops. Very
Can I
few
make one comment?
characters. Oh
Go
yeah.
for it.
I really wish that it had been just the 10K course plus a little longer in Anaheim. So I wish it was 6 miles through both parks, through all the lands, no difference there, and then through the rest of Anaheim. I didn't really love that you didn't go through every land in the Disneyland park.
Mm.
That was a
Yeah.
miss for me.
I
You know,
did like
Disney-
some of the differences though, because I like that you got like we went through the largest section of Galaxy's Edge that we've
Yes.
ever gotten to go through. Like going and actually going by the Millennium Falcon was
Yeah, that
kind
was
of
cool.
iconic.
That's
Of
true.
course, there was PhotoPass there. I don't think the photos turned out great, but
It was flat too. So I understand maybe they had to do it because of how much, I don't know, elevation there was during the 10K, because there was a lot of differences in the track during the 10K for the course. So
but then you got out of that Galaxy Edge and there is literally a container like hanging
Crazy.
halfway into the course.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah.
We want to move into some road miles here.
Yeah, so Nova talked about going to Starbucks. She had indicated she didn't have a lot of food before the race started and she wasn't sure. And like I know she was going a little bit and she didn't get her proper coffee. So when I ran by that Starbucks that was right at the beginning of the road miles, like Ball, because we were on Ball like every 5 seconds, Ball and something else. It was just like right on the corner. There was so DCL podcast listeners will know this. There was a Subway on the other side, and then which I took a picture of and was able to send that to our podcast listeners. And then there was a Starbucks. So I called Nova and I was like, you have to like check out this Ball Road Starbucks. So she was able, like, she's like, I just walked in, grabbed my stuff, and walked out. Took zero time.
What a move.
Right? So a little joy for her race by mile 6 or something. I've done other road races and there's stuff all along the course and it doesn't just have to be volunteers putting the stuff on the course. So I've done a lot of road races that were in cities. Disney could have put something more on the road miles. We had the benefit of some individuals that entertained us and that came out to the race, and thank God for those people, because literally we had nothing from Disney besides train tracks that they didn't tell us we weren't getting run over by a train, and water and Gatorade.
And I fully expected that, to be honest, because of what I'd heard from people who had run Disneyland before. They said, Disney does not cross the line of doing anything out in those areas because of the city of Anaheim and all of that. But that being said, whatever, anxious minds, however you want to think, but I was really anxious. We saw giant dogs that people just lived there and had those. It was cool to see people give out candy, but again, these are absolute strangers just pulling up to the course, giving out candy. It's a very neat idea and it is a fun community piece, but in the time we're in, I don't know how substantial that is. And I can understand why Disney didn't do this for, 6-7 years.
And then like the medical tents were so
Yeah.
far off
Yeah,
of
that
the
was
course.
bad. Yeah, they got
I needed Vaseline at some point towards the end. And I had to and this was we lived at that parking lot for 5 hours, parking lot portion of the course. Maybe it was just before or just after. But I had to go really far to get to the medical tent off of the course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you put it next to the road?
Somebody fell and everyone around just put their hands up there's nobody. There's not, you call 911, and that's
Right.
what we were all like, call 911. Like, there's nobody here. I mean, there's just not. So I do think that that's something they're going to get a lot of feedback on. And again, this is not a course that you should run if you are not attentive because of the bumps in the road, because of the course changes, because there's not much light. When you sign up for it, you don't know that. But this half marathon is not what you do if you are not ready to really be a part of what you're doing, because you could definitely get hurt. That's dangerous.
Yeah, so the second half of this race is a city, like a small city half marathon. It is not. It's not Walt Disney World half marathon.
It's
and
not Detroit. It's not Chicago. It's not like any
yes,
of these.
it's a
other-
small.
Yeah, no.
And one thing that Sarah noted, one of the girls that runs with me, is when you're at Walt Disney World and running highway miles, yeah, they can be long and boring. We do have characters and stuff, but you're always running to somewhere.
Right.
You always have somewhere to look forward to. It's I'm running to Magic Kingdom, I'm running to Animal, to Epcot, to wherever. Where in this case is, all right, I'm out of the park at mile 5.5, and I am just looking for that finish at mile 13. And especially like mile 5 to mile 9, where like once you get to the stadiums and stuff, like at least you got some things to look at there. But those miles in between, going zigzagging down Ball Road and the other road that you were parallel to, that was dull. And talking about the safety things. So one of the issues we had, and like I said, didn't end up being a huge deal because of where we are. There's not many people on the course, but there was a car on the course.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know if they just didn't know, like they were leaving wherever they were and they didn't know and it wasn't blocked off properly. But yeah, there was just like a car on the road, on the course. I said, I was like, we're very lucky that like this is early on the race and there's not tens of thousands of people on this road right now.
No, that's so crazy because it's dark and, I mean.
It was still very much dark at that point.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we love running all of them, but this one we really were like, I don't know if we need to do it again, but.
I may have said I hate this.
Yeah.
Sometimes during my run, and I would skip intervals, or I would just my husband was like, "You're actually running faster," because
we did. I think everyone negative split this one.
We just wanted to be done with these miles on this highway. I also felt pro for Anaheim. There's like all those highway ramps that we get all over Walt Disney World. We didn't have to deal with that. And then the con was the one by the river.
Yeah.
I loved that though.
Okay.
That must be great by yourself. And it's not great with all of these friends.
True.
3,000 friends. We were like, I mean, rocks. You could easily have slid down the rock walls. All of it. My anxiety was like, this is not for me. Yeah.
It was slippery, I felt like, in those rocks. And I didn't really have many people around me when I went downhill. But I also wasn't I don't know what was wrong with me, but I wasn't prepared for how steep it was. Like, I kind of hurt my knee when I first started going down the one next to the river. And the river was beautiful. I see why they did that part of the course. But yeah, it was awfully steep.
Yeah, I really don't know if they'll ever do it again because I think of the athletes with disabilities and the Roll Disney. I mean, I had a lot that were coming by on some of these steeper hills, and it was very scary. I saw somebody's wheel, something happened because they had to pull over, and I get it, and you can't please everybody, so we'll start there. But also, if we're going to make this very inclusive, they've got to pick better options than that narrow area. And again, it was beautiful by the river. I did really enjoy it as well. But there were moments where people could not get up the ramp on their Roll Disney or in their chair. And that was really saddening to see because they're like, I don't need help. I don't need help. And it's like, I get it. And I would feel the exact same way. But man, you shouldn't even have to do this part. This is a rough area. Could we get around this somehow next time? Can we make it better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, definitely trying to keep it inclusive. And you did wasn't one of the exits to it like kind of a weird turny situation? I think when you're by the train station there.
And I don't know. And I was just around a lot of athletes that were in chairs and for different reasons. And they were yelling, and we all yelled to help too, because they would be out of nowhere, but it was kind of rough. Let's see, running past the Disney train.
Oh, I can throw that back up there.
That's fine.
Yes. And that's actually a great, kind of segue into, we still had a good time.
Yes.
It is just a very different expectation if you're used to Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
And like I said, very much more of a small city half marathon vibe once you're out of the park. And we had a friend with us who said, while there may have been more volunteers out in the past, and hopefully that will continue to grow as these races come back and continue to grow, but he said it has always felt like a city marathon that happens to go through Disneyland.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like that is very much the vibe of what the Disneyland race is. And to an extent, that's kind of the way it has to be with the design of Disneyland.
Absolutely. They're doing the best with what they got, but yeah, I do think they should redesign the city portion a little bit. And I think
bring something have a little bit more than they had there. And I get that they have to jump through some hoops. Well, do that then, because I've done city races and it was not that where at one point, so when we went up and over, we're just, running straight and next to strip malls and whatever. And it was literally 4 different just people hanging out. That was our entertainment, little tiny groups. So, but I felt like the cast members and the volunteers that were there were great. The cast members we'd see on the course at the beginning and the end, I felt like they were good. This is interesting. I went to Disneyland after that race and I went to guest services for something, and there was one guest services person working in the building when the park was opening. And I was like, it was not it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't in a hurry. I didn't really care, but I was like, so how are you by yourself? And he said, we thought the park was opening later. Everybody was scheduled to arrive later. So nobody was on the schedule to be here at this time, which might also be the reason that a lot of those rides were not open at the park opening.
That's just so crazy.
Wasn't that the day the genie was down as well?
What? That was the 10K day.
Okay.
It wasn't the half day. It was the 10K day.
To me, and this is going to be my one little snide comment. I understand that they operate as a smaller company. That's just how they operate, but they shouldn't. Why are we doing this? I mean, you guys are Disney. You are Disneyland. You can set the standard. You have a smaller space so you can do better things. And I think that's why I'm like, okay, these races, they were good. I loved the 10K. Could they be amazing? And I think that's where we all have these high expectations for Disney. And, they've always got to run against those. And I get that. But I really do think that they could do some incredible things. And I am interested to see if they do them. And I think it starts with these little things like the photographers or slight changes to that course map for the half marathon. But we'll see.
I agree 100%. And I mean, yes, being back out there for the first weekend return, absolutely amazing. Being out there with everyone we knew, meeting up with all these people. Of course, we got to see many people at Christy and I's meetup. All of that was really what truly made it magical. And I mean, also too, the closeness of Disneyland. You were constantly running into people. I mean, we were staying at the Disneyland Hotel. Christy said, hey, I'm at the Expo. I'm like, I will be there in 30 seconds. All of that was just truly awesome. And I do, walkability of Disneyland and walkability to the race. Definitely a big highlight there. You don't have no planes, trains, and monorails to.
You can also stay anywhere. You could stay at the Howard Johnson Anaheim and have the best time and walk just as far or as close as the Grand California or Disneyland Hotel. and you wouldn't have to go through security twice. You would only go through once. So, I mean, there's some major pros if you're interested and they continue to do the start lines out there. Check out those hotels like Howard Johnson Anaheim or Courtyard or anything around there. Yeah, Candy Cane Inn, great location. Awesome.
Yeah, that Howard Johnson Hotel was like right on the corner.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah,
great.
like right there. Yeah.
Our friend
a lot, so I'm
Steven
biased, but I love
yeah.
them. Yeah, it's clean. They're great rates.
Good to know.
It's a great location. 5-minute walk to Disneyland. There's my little shout out to Howard Johnson.
While we're kind of wrapping up on the final thoughts, I do always like to go over the finishers. And now, of course, I don't have the 5K because they don't post finishers. For the 10K, we did have 6,601 finishers, which is actually very small on the terms of 10Ks compared to Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World
they could
runs usually in like that 8,000 to 10,000 range.
Mm-hmm. They could have let more of us register.
Yeah, but honestly, I feel like that was like the right size,
right, for what
they were doing with that.
Yeah, I'm so interested to hear the half marathon. What was the size?
So half marathon. What's interested was they advertised about 14,000 bibs. Now, very often, not all of those bibs actually exist. That's just the number range they give when bibs come out. We had 11,186 total finishers. Now, as Nova said, she believes there was a good number of people that got swept off that end portion. But that is actually on kind of the smaller range for Run Disney half marathons. Yeah. Typically 12 to 13 is the average, but we've seen races kind of squeaking into that like 14, 15,000 range now.
So let's think about that. I mean, 12 to 15 at Disney World, completely doable. Do I think 11 at Land, is that doable? I don't know. I mean, if they could have done 8 to 10, it probably would be a better experience, but that's what they're going to do, and that's how they're going to do their margins and things. So.
Well, they could do waves too, right?
For sure.
They didn't need to have.
I think a lot of those issues with the course and issues with any sort of start finish, a lot of that's going to come down to the city issue.
Yep, agreed.
Which, unfortunately, I think they have almost as much control as we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that.
We've already said, biggest two things that they could improve upon and really, kind of make it a little bit more premier for us. The photo pass and the characters would make a huge difference. I will say the mile signs
amazing
for this weekend. Amazing. I loved those.
Yeah, loved those. I took so many photos with those. And that's the thing. Like, I'll take them with my phone. I do love the photo pass, but you're not going to get a photo pass for those. And those are really cool. Also, you could take a picture with mile 6 and the finish line or something like, or the
mile. Yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And that was so cool. We had so many people stopping. I was just taking everyone's picture that came by because it's cool. And the sun was coming up and that was something else we didn't talk about. The sunrise, stunning. California sunrises, incredible.
Beautiful.
And you're getting to run through. I mean, at that point, we were almost to the streets. So it was beautiful to come over some of these humps and see that sunrise. But there were some major pros to it being in California for sure.
Oh, yeah. And while the weather was cold, it was still like, I thought the weather was kind of awesome for the weekend. Like, I've got all these Run Disney jackets that I never really get to wear here. I was like, sweet. I wore the marathon jacket from last year, like almost every day. I bought the Disneyland jacket.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, I loved it. And running weather, that's like my peak running weather, actually. So
yeah, I did my fastest mile whenever we started the 10K, and it was freezing that day. I did feel like the 10K day was colder than the half, but.
Oh, it absolutely was. I wore sleeves for the 10K, but I wore just my tank for the half.
I did the same thing, and I wish that I'd had more layers for the 10K because of how cold it was, but that's just good to know. I didn't expect it to be, I don't know, early 40s, like low 40s.
It was genuinely cold this weekend.
Which is good to note. Like, if anybody listens to this for the
definitely
following
watch the weather.
And I mean, when you're doing Dopey to Dumbo, you've prepped so much clothes, but I really didn't prep that much cold clothes, to be honest. I had a couple things, but not for running. And it turned into too many layers. But I would say get a lot of layers to donate and just take them off and leave them. Go to Goodwill, get a couple sweatshirts.
Well, and I was even able to find like Target and
Target discount sometime has some like you can get like $3 or $4 sweatshirts that are just like XXL or something.
Yeah.
We have like a whole in our running closet. We have a whole bunch of Target bags when we buy them when they go on clearance.
Awesome.
Well, and I had moved my house, and so I'd gotten rid of all of the garbage clothes that would be appropriate throwaway clothes. So if you are a Run Disney runner and you are moving, move your throwaway clothes. Otherwise, you're going to end up buying them, which is what I had to do.
Yeah,
but it worked. I was glad to have some throwaway clothes, even with the pre-start cuddle. And I wore pants for like running tights for the half, and I felt like that was a good decision throughout. And I alternated between wearing my short sleeve and Sarah's comment. Thanks for the throwaway pants.
Love that.
Yeah, she wore them like on her arm.
People were taking layers off of the walls to like put on. Like that's how cold. It was very cold.
Yeah. I'm so glad that worked out. Yeah, I got you, Sarah.
We figured it out, Sarah. Don't you worry. But
I'm
say
so
hi
glad.
to Ken as well.
My husband always teases me that like I hate something going to waste so much. So the fact that those pants got a little bit more life out of them and got to be worn like over arms just for a little longer. But just for people to sort of keep in mind, I alternated between wearing my long sleeve tech shirt and my short sleeve throughout, because some of those churns, it was still a little cool for me.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wanted the long sleeve at times. And then I would just tie it to my waist when I wasn't wearing it. So it wasn't a big deal.
Which is a great way to do it, especially if you run walk. Like that's great because you can just take it off, put it back on. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we're running a heck of long. So if anyone has any last minute questions, throw them in the comments now. And then we're going to kind of try to wrap this up here in the next couple minutes. We almost tried to do Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Like that was my original intent. And I was like, oh, that's not going to work.
I know.
And I'm glad we did not try to.
40 minutes into one weekend, basically.
Yep. Wendy says none, but I can't wait to see y'all at Princess. Wendy, we can't wait to see you. If you've watched my 10K video or the half that comes out on Thursday, Wendy and her husband were the ones with the Mouse Gen sign, which just like touched my heart.
Wendy,
loved it.
Are you the one too?
Yes,
Sorry.
Wendy is the person
Wendy
with the
did
pen.
The pens, right? So, and this pen writes really nicely. So
That's
Wendy
so
gave
cool.
us pens, and then our other listener brought bracelets to our meetup. That was so cool. Just the interaction, right? Like the people.
Oh my goodness, the people that came to the meetup and like brought us gifts and stuff, like so touching. If you came to the meetup or you stopped us at any point, and I do have my little list here that I do want to go down.
I like that list. But like Liz brought vinyl to the meetup. And
it was just like giving them out to everyone too.
Yeah.
Like everyone have stickers, have pens. Like it was awesome.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And just hanging out, like some of our listeners, I went through the parks with, because I wasn't traveling with other people, and that was amazing. It was just, it was a good weekend. My flight too back to Orlando on Monday night was like full of runners. Like the entire flight, I feel like, was Run Disney. At least a good half of it.
And I feel like you don't get that feeling as much anymore, and it's really special. I think they said it in the corrals too. Like, look around. These people are up the same time as you. Everybody here is interested in the same things you are. And that's just
such a community.
It's very special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll give my little shout out. This is mostly everyone, unless I forgot or didn't catch your name, who kind of stopped us or said hi. But we had Claudia, who we run into all the time now. Always good to see you, Claudia. Amanda, Bo and Caroline. Cindy, who made us DCL podcast friendship bracelets, which was awesome. Tyler and Katie, Leslie, Nicole, who stopped me in the corral. And then at the meetup, we had Wendy and Joey, who we just mentioned had the sign. Raphael and Daphne came out. We had Todd, Marcia, who had stopped us in the security line. Eric, I do apologize that we missed you. It did not happen this time. I'm so sorry. But I know they did mention that you had found them, I think, after the 5 or 10K during Walt Disney World. And there was so many more. I'm missing a ton of people who had come to the meetup. Of course, Chris, Brian. Thank you guys all. The community is absolutely, like I said, what this was about this weekend. Getting to see everyone, spend time with everyone, and just hear about everyone's amazing races has just been absolutely awesome. Christy or Ashley, you have anything to add from that?
I don't think so.
No, I think it was great. Thanks for having me on here today. This has been such a blast. I'll have to come back and chat about Dopey. I would love to hear.
Yes, I would still love to squeeze in something marathon weekend, whether we do another rundown. Quite frankly, people love to hear about Dopey.
I want to.
Oh, okay. So here's what we need to do. We need to powwow again because Christy is contemplating her first Dopey.
Second marathon.
Do it.
So we can come and do a little Dopey round table.
Yes.
We do have one more question here that we'll just throw it out here, which is your must-do Walt Disney World race. If you could only pick one, marathon weekend for me, hands down, favorite weekend of the year. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Well, there might be one wrong answer, but
I'm interested. What you think is wrong? Which one?
If I had to cut one out, it'd be Princess.
See, Princess is my favorite.
So do not get me wrong. Princess was my first run Disney weekend. It totally has my heart. As for offering anything extra, Princess doesn't hit it. You get the party with Wine and Dine. Marathon weekend is just the most hype weekend. Springtime, you get the extra race with the challenge.
But it's princesses.
Yeah, it's princesses, and it's girly, and it's very cute medals, and
like I said, it has my heart. I'm not saying I'm not doing it. I'm just saying every time I rank the weekends for the year, Princess ends up.
It's fair.
I have to say that springtime might be my going forward weekend. I know we've talked about this before, but I love that you lose 3 miles off the half and you just get a 10-miler.
I like that too.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a great distance.
Right? It's great.
It's that distance every time you run a half where you're like, I could be done right now. I'm
now
good.
I gotta go 3 more miles. All right, I can go 3 more miles, but what if I was done?
Yeah, for me, and I hate to say it, but Wine and Dine has my heart because I had never run a half marathon. I did the challenge as my first half. And then I do love marathon, and I do think Dopey now is one of my favorites because of just how crazy it is, and it really is special. But the Wine and Dine party for the half, I think that's such a great deal for people who are coming to visit.
Yep.
If you're trying to do a race for Disney, I always say do the Wine and Dine half because you'll be blown away. But then later on, Dopey and all of that, in my opinion, is more fun. But
I think that's great. Yeah. I think Wine and Dine is what I always recommend to people, because with the party, you're getting such a full package. Yeah. I think I don't know, marathon just has my heart with Dopey and all of that.
It's special.
It's just my favorite. And I think that's just the weekend that there is always, everyone is there. Everyone's there. Everyone's doing Dopey. Or if not, if I'm doing Dopey, you're seeing everyone because you're at all the races. Yeah. So but Ashley is right. If you had to really only pick one, I would recommend Wine and Dine over marathon, unless you're tied to Dopey or tied to the marathon.
Yeah.
Which are absolutely okay as well, as I said.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is an excellent spot to take us out here because we are going so long. Christy, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we're on a little back-to-back spree of recording here.
It's usually how that works.
Yep. And Ashley, thank you so much for joining us for the first time. I hope we can have you back on. But until then, where can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram or YouTube at Disney_tricks. Also TikTok. So Disney_tricks. Thank you for having me. This was such a blast. I'd love to come back and talk about Dopey, but thank you guys so much for this community, and it's such a blast.
You are always more than welcome. Definitely make sure to check out Ashley because she does have a ton of really great Disney content. Like, it is insane. So if you don't follow her already, please make sure you go and check her out. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Run Disney Rundown. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, all of that fun YouTube-y stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.